Alrighty, so the majority of you guys have most likely already seen the threads about the world-renowned YouTuber Kidology making a 30-minute dissertation on looks maxing. If you haven't already, go give them a read. They're utter cage fuel. So now give it up. Who was it that told this Sid from Ice Age Sheboon about our site? I don't want this going, etc. Essentially, all she does is go on a lengthy rant about how looks maxing is supposedly harmful, dangerous, and overall a bad thing for society. Now, what caught my interest wasn't that video, but another video of hers, this one to be precise. Basically, what this video entails is her telling us that she has been celibate for 7 years. Yes, you heard that right, 7 entire years. And get this right, her reasoning as to why she's been celibate is that her guy friends weren't interested in her, that it is vaguely difficult as a woman because they don't hold all the power in the dating market, and she really wasn't all that picky when it came to guys. And the various comments in her comment section virtually saying the exact same things, such as these ones. So, what I did was start up a Bumble account using pictures from her Instagram.
Let me get this together today, because this day is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Now bear in mind, this is a fairly unattractive black female, the most undesirable demographic of female to exist, and I live in a predominantly white area. Within literally 15 minutes, yes, 15 minutes of making a Bumble account, these were her results. There are incels who are wage slaving their asses off and themselves at the gym every single day on here, who have gone months, no, years, without one single match on any old app. And this fresh off the boat, 3.5 PSL Femcel African has managed to max out her Bumble matches in 15 minutes. Unironically, her looks max is an African pygmy currently hunting monkeys in the jungles of Congo. So, conclusion to be made here, never ever let a woman tell you that they're lonely or can't seem to find that one good guy, in brackets a Chad, when the entirety of the modern dating market has been designed for them to succeed, flourish, and choose from whomever they please, and for you to fail and feel like an utter subhuman, not worthy of human affection. YouTuber Sheboon is celibate and no one wants to pipe her. This Sheboon is kinda articulate with her thought, but she is ugly. She has broad nose and she is bald, wears a wig. Also, black pussy stanks. As a result, she is now celibate and missing some human warmth. Any takers want to pipe her, knock her on IG. Right. You must forgive me, I am frightfully sick, but I am feeling a lot better today and actually feel able to sit down in front of my computer and articulate some thoughts. So I do apologize for the sound of my voice. Now, I found this response very interesting because it very much confirmed a lot of what I already thought about looks maxing and also about this particular black pill community. In short, I uploaded a video to my YouTube channel and the response to it was overwhelmingly positive and introspective and insightful and very engaging, and so I thank you sincerely. But I did assume that there would be some negative feedback, of course, and inevitably I didn't expect it to go to this extent, but I think I am also somewhat glad that it did, because it has given me some time to think about this response and also about some members of this community and also some misconceptions, I think, and also a very narrow perception of what inceldom is. I did propose a few months ago that we need to reclaim the definition and meaning of incel, because I think we have a lot more in common than we have otherwise. And we need to really appreciate this in order to somehow engage in dialogue and move forward. Because I think this perception of women and men is just shrouded in mysticism and just in assumptions, which dating apps primarily do not help with. And let me be quite clear. I do not consider looks maxing or looks maxes in any way bad people. And I don't consider this forum to be a bad forum in and of itself. I think it is a product of something which I did articulate rather thoroughly in my video. That is the problem, which is the internet and our over-reliance on trying to fulfill unrealistic desires that are just everywhere in our technology-based age. I also don't don't think that the majority of these people, including the individuals who have called me the most horrendous and racist of names, are actually really racist. I get a lot of pushback for this opinion because it is one that I do hold. I am quite sure, about 99% sure, that these individuals who've called me a she-boon, who've called me the N-word, who've called me all kinds of deplorable things on this forum in the last few days and in my DMs, would never in their wildest dreams even contemplate saying that to my face in person. I would bet my savings on that, and I don't have any, so I would bet my heart on that. All my heart, my Horcruxes, everything on that. And I think that this speaks to a broader topic with regards to why I am so disdainful of dating apps. And so I think it is quite interesting that this particular individual decided to steal my identity and create a fake dating profile on Bumble in his predominantly white area, because it really does prove my point, and it really does speak to something which I hold quite strongly about our age and modern dating and the modern sexual marketplace. And just to add in, my video was actually reported, and I was nearly in a bit of a legal conundrum with YouTube because apparently I violated the privacy of somebody whose face I didn't even show in my video. But then they take pictures from my Instagram and create a fake dating profile. So looking at this fake dating profile, I found this very interesting, especially when looking at my bio. My basics: woman, something casual, and my interests: art, writing, cricket, festivals, and pubs. Firstly, in my video, I was very clear that I don't do anything casual. So this completely misses the point. And I think when somebody says that they want something casual, that immediately infers that they want sex, that it is about sex. And when it comes to something like that, men are far more likely to have sex with a willing individual who just wants something casual. Irrespective of your race, there's no commitment, there's no long-term consequences, there's no long-term obligations. And so it isn't a high risk for men to engage in something casual. Think Ashley Madison. Hello, editing me. I'm going to be interrupting this video quite a bit because, as you can hear, my brain is a bit foggy. It's like candy floss, so do bear with me. There was something important that I forgot to stress just because I seem to assume it. But I think just looking at the specific dating app that was chosen by these individuals is very interesting. Bumble was described as being, and I quote, a feminist app. The idea that women would take control when it came to initiating conversation and also likes through the swiping left or right. And you'd assume that a dating app which is catered toward at least the stereotype of the modern feminist girl boss woman would be attracting a fair amount of women. That is a sort of equal amount of women relative to men. Because a point that I keep stressing on this channel to death is that the number of men on dating apps relative to women is substantially higher. In fact, as of this year, over 80% of people on Tinder are men. So consider that, and also that most women on Tinder are inundated with requests and with likes. It is obviously the case that a lot of men are going to get no responses. And in this, it is as if some men are just playing a game that they are inevitably going to lose. It is obvious from the outset that they are going to lose. But on the flip side, it's important to note that of the 20% of women that are on Tinder, not all of them are of interest to the 80% of men on Tinder. So I was very interested to see that as of 2021, the percentage of men relative to women is 67.4% to 32.6%. So there are over double the number of men on Bumble, a feminist app which is catered toward women and seemingly empowering women, compared to the app's target demographic. So when we look at my own anecdotal experience with this fake dating profile, it is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy and obvious that I am going to get responses. So just based on the fact that this fake dating app was created by individuals on a forum which caters to black pill men and to men predominantly looking to looks max, I can assume quite confidently that this app was created by a man or men. Therefore, they actually had the best of both worlds once again, which is something that black pillars do like, I have noticed. They posed as me, a woman, and yet they were able to, as a consequence of stealing my identity, able to present themselves through a very masculine way. That is, being able to utilize the fact that women have to initiate first contact in the way that they, as men, pretending to be me, would do and would prefer to do, at least going on the conventional way that things are done in the dating world. So I can assume that they approach this from the way that men approach dating apps. It is about quantity over quality. It is about getting as many likes out as possible in order to get at least a few, a handful or a couple of likes. So I assume that the reason I got so many responses back and so many matches is because these individuals sent out numerous likes to pretty much anybody. That is not the way that any woman would ever approach a dating app unless she was there for casual purposes, which I would never be there for, and which the vast majority of women on dating apps are not interested in and are not on dating apps for. Men are far more likely than women to engage in casual sex. I think something that is often not appreciated about women and our sexuality, especially by men, is that sex is actually objectively incredibly dangerous for women. And this is why establishing trust and getting to know somebody is so important to women. And I would say just personally for me, if I am going to sleep with somebody, I need to know that I'm going to be safe with them, because objectively speaking, and yes, I know that specifically speaking, the vast majority of men in this world are not going to cause me any harm. But objectively speaking, a man is a lot stronger than me. Even when I go to the gym and I feel incredibly empowered, a man is a lot stronger than me.
Guys are wholly fucking brain dead when it comes to understanding some of the fears or struggles that women have sometimes too.
Really?
Like, guys will say stupid shit like, oh, like I'm meeting her for a date. Why can't I just pick you up from your house? Like, why can't you just come back to my place or whatever? It's like, bro, you weigh 80 pounds heavier than this woman. You could fucking murder this bitch in an instant if you wanted to.
This bitch?
Like, this lovely young queen, right? This queen. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Destiny.
Yeah, but like there are guys that have no concept of like the fear of like, you know, why won't you go to the bathroom and leave your drink in front of me? Like, I don't even know why that would be a problem as a guy. Like, a lot of guys have no idea all of the random shit that women have kind of navigate in the dating markets too. So I agree that like women definitely lack empathy when it comes to male struggle and male experience a lot. That is absolutely fucking true. And they'll say some dumb shit, but I hear guys say a lot of really fucking stupid shit too.
Based on even my anecdotal experience with men, there are a lot of men in my life who I know would and have said that they would happily sleep with me, but they wouldn't be in a relationship with me. And I think this is one of the issues with incels as well, especially insofar as the responses to my particular fake dating profile were concerned. Incels want the best of both worlds, and both the worlds which they want don't actually exist. They want, on the one hand, a woman who they can be in a relationship with, who they can love, who they can cuddle on the couch, as is represented on Incel Wiki. Yet, on the other hand, they reduce relationships and intimacy to sex. And I just find this quite sad. I find it sad because I think that when it comes to dating, when it comes to relationships, we are so obsessed with dating profiles. And profiles are just a 2D representation of a person. And this gets on to my second point. Never ever let a woman tell you that they're lonely or can't seem to find that one good guy, a Chad, when the entirety of the modern dating market has been designed for them to succeed, flourish, and choose from whomever they please, and for you to fail and feel like an utter subhuman, not worthy of human affection. Okay, firstly, considering that you talk about me, a female who is trying to understand you and trying to analyze your community with critique, but also a lot of empathy, all the things that you have called me, it is absolutely no wonder that no woman wants to sleep with you. I will agree with you. Yes, everything is about looks. But when it comes to dating apps, relative to real life, there is a huge difference when it comes to our understanding and interpretation of looks. I was having a conversation with a friend a few days ago, and I said that I'm very against dating apps because they really take away the real essence of appearances and looks as we often encounter them in person. What I mean by this is when I find somebody attractive, I don't just find how they look attractive. I find a lot of things about their entire 3D look attractive. For instance, their smell, the way that they engage in the world, the way that they walk, the way that they engage with other people, their dexterity, the way that their imperfections sort of come together and make a whole person. I can find things that I would otherwise find completely unattractive or repulsive just on their own, as standalone things, such as how somebody chews their food. I could find that unattractive. But then when I meet somebody and I engage with them, I communicate with them, I have sort of chemistry, romantic or otherwise with them, we engage in the world together, I see them sort of in action, living authentically, and I mean really authentically and instinctively, impulsively, more so than in a curated sense online or on a dating app. When I recognize the way that they eat their food in a way that I would otherwise find incredibly repulsive or disgusting, but somehow with them and their body and their movements, their just way of being and engaging with people, I find it incredibly attractive. That builds a very unique kind of attraction and attractiveness, which is why when we reduce people down to these generalizations, I am, for instance, the most unattractive demographic of female because I'm black. The way, for instance, my fake hair looks on me relative to the idea of fake hair in general, it all comes together to form a unique person and human being.
Sometimes people have such rigid things when it comes to dating before they've even done much dating. And so they're already closing themselves from experiences that they might actually enjoy because they were like, no, that's a red line for me. It's like, bitch, you drew that red line when you were like 18 and you've never even been inside a pussy. You don't know what a red line is. You have no reason why you even drew it. You just heard something on a podcast or somebody told you. You don't know. So I think people like her, in a way, especially considering her career, being open-minded makes me respect it. I think it's commendable.
And all the things that I'm describing are incredibly physical and looks-based, but they're not the same as what we consider now in terms of looks, as we know and interpret them from online engagement and discourse. There are incels who are wage slaving their asses off and killing themselves at the gym every single day on here, who have gone months, no years without one single match on any old app. And this fresh off the boat 3.5 PSL femcel African has managed to max out her Bumble matches in 15 minutes. Okay, that was really interesting. Firstly, just going back to my point about generalizations. Generalizations relative to what I've just described about acknowledging and responding to people and how they look in real life and in person are fixed. Generalizations are fixed. The generalization that somebody is a incel, the generalization that somebody like me who is black is therefore at the bottom of the pole in terms of attractiveness to men, is a fixed generalization. Something like that isn't going to change in the mind of somebody, right? But when it comes to people in the real world, we are not fixed. We are constantly changing. We are, as my friend described, vessels of meaning. We are constantly evolving, developing, changing. Our attractiveness and our attraction to people is changing. It's never fixed or the same. We are individuals. It's these generalizations, such as the idea that having a lot of money is what is going to attract Stacey's to you, or the generalization that killing yourself at the gym is what is going to attract women and predominantly what these men want is Stacey's to you. It's these that are actually stunting any kind of appreciation that the world is not based on generalizations at all. If it was, then it makes absolutely no sense why, for instance, when femcels used to previously go onto these kinds of forums in order to talk with other incels, male incels, about their problems, they were oftentimes chased off these forums. It doesn't really make sense because you kind of think that this is a perfect match made in heaven. Femcels and incels, two groups who can't get sex coming together, that they could pair up. But obviously that didn't work, because attraction does matter. And attraction, not in the superficial, artificial sense that we see online, but attraction as in that in-person attraction, that getting to know somebody, and not just getting to know them in terms of that very idealistic way of their personality and having deep, meaningful conversations, but actually getting to know them as a human being of mind and body. The modern dating market has not been designed for women to flourish and to maximize our sexual market value. The truth of the matter is that men and women will never find love if they place a market value on it. And I think this is the issue with our age, in which it has brought the market into the domain of love. And that doesn't make any sense. It is an inherent contradiction, because a relationship with a significant other is one that is really not based in a lot of reality. It's really a relationship with somebody where there's absolutely no guarantee of success. There's no guarantee whatsoever that they'll come back the next day. There's absolutely nothing, no guarantee that you can trust them, aside from you having faith in them. It's kind of like the relationship which individuals have with God or with some kind of religious deity. There is faith, and this is something that St. Augustine writes very interestingly about, that we have doubts, but ultimately we have to let faith prevail and trump everything else. And I think one of the sad things in our modern dating age is that we are increasingly being subsumed in this idea that we can find guarantors and guarantees that somebody is not going to, for instance, cheat on us, that we can trust somebody, but that trust is not based in faith in that individual. Trust is no longer bedfellows with faith, but rather with skepticism. Editing me again. I think it's also important to note something that we often take for granted in our modern age, which is that marriage and starting relationships from a place of want, of attraction, desire, and also personal choice is a very, very recent thing. Marriage and relationships based on love and romance is a very recent phenomena in the West. This was really not the case until roughly the late 19th century. Previously, especially for aristocratic arrangements, there was a clear market, but it also was a highly exclusive and confined one. There weren't as many people nor choice, especially when we consider now we have globalization, we have the internet and social media, which makes the scope of possibility endless. And it's very interesting because it feels as if now dating apps are trying to marry the new with the old. Our new love-based and romance-based forming of relationships and marriages with the old, very market-based arrangement sort of shtick. Yet obviously this is all for profit making. And I think in this, in what dating apps are trying to do, which is just for money, we are caught up in the middle of it. And we are all trying to navigate the rules, the regulations. We're all trying to beat the game, a game that is never meant to be beat. And we also have to deal with things that we otherwise never had to as human beings, such as social media, and therefore the expansion of avenues and very ambiguous avenues of what infidelity is, such as following Instagram models or posting very explicit photographs of yourself for followers or for money, those sorts of things. Discussions which as a society we've never had, and I think is very difficult to really put parameters around, especially when we are all so very distrusting of each other. And so when you put all of that into a dating app, people who don't trust each other, people who see dating as a game and therefore are trying to find very superficial, generalized ways of understanding how to play the game, and inevitably with any game there have to be more losers than winners, it's obviously going to end up that way. Dating apps were not created to benefit women or to benefit or disadvantage men. They were created to make money and to make profit, and it's a lot easier to do that from men when men, just sexually speaking, are far more sexual and men are visual creatures. That's a quote from Michael Scott. When as our society knows, it is difficult for men to approach women in person, and therefore the easier alternative is to sit on dating apps and try to get with girls, as opposed to actually putting yourself out there in the world, really investing time and money and inevitable failure in some cases into doing things like volunteering, going to bars, going to events, actually having to develop a personality and a persona and just all these different things, which are very, very difficult and very challenging. And also just with the privatization of a lot of public places. I was talking to an acquaintance a few days ago about how in the 60s, when they were a teenager, they would go to dance halls, free dance halls, every Friday evening. And over the course of a few years, they would date, they would fall in love, fall out of love, boys would become men, boys who wouldn't even dream of speaking to girls for the first few months would eventually pluck up the courage to actually approach a girl and talk to her. They'd face rejection, but then success. And I really appreciated how she described it as seeing boys turning into men and even girls turning into women. And I think that is so important and something that we have really lost. There is such an ambiguity around manhood and womanhood. And when somebody becomes a woman or a man, it's really so unclear, and there's no real guidance for individuals like there previously was. And this isn't to say to harp back to the past and be nostalgic about it. I don't believe in that. Imagine if people in the 60s had iPhones and could post all their mental health issues and everything just going on in Vietnam and the Cold War onto Twitter. It would be absolutely crazy. But just in terms of looking at that specific instance, there is definitely something missing. That opportunity to actually develop your communicative skills, to actually develop your personhood, and to actually appreciate that people are not fixed in generalizations and stereotypes, but are actually ever-changing and are unique. Because when you think like this, and you go onto a forum and find yourself in these echo chambers where people think exactly like this, there is really no hope in the real world, which is moving at a far greater pace in terms of just people, in terms of relationships, than these forums are. It is very heartbreaking to see. And I don't necessarily blame these individuals for holding these opinions, including ones about me that are very derogatorily and racially based, because our world isn't terribly accommodating to allowing women and men the chance to really grow, to really understand themselves, and to also just appreciate themselves for who they are, as opposed to the ideals which we can create and fixate on that are presented on the likes of dating apps, on social media accounts. So I'd be very interested in your thoughts on this. I'd also be very interested in anybody who is watching this who is actually from looksmax.org. I am actually very willing to talk and to communicate with you openly, honestly. I'd love to see your face, actually, and to have a real conversation. But right now, I need to go to bed and I need to recover. And I will see you all very soon in the next one.